Hello, my name is Odalis Aguilar Aguilar, and I am a senior at the University of Oregon, triple majoring in History, Latin American Studies, and Spanish. The title of my research is The Recent History of PCUN and the Victories of the Farmworker Community in Oregon. The faculty advisor for this research project is Dr. Julie Wise, and this research project came from a conversation with PCUN's executive director, Reina Lopez. PCUN stands for Pineros y Campesinos Unidos del Noroeste, and this research kind of builds on research that has already been done by other scholars from the University of Oregon, including Dr. Lynn Steven and alumni Mario Cifuentes. Both of them have documented the history of the farmworker community and the organization up until about 2012, but my research kind of expands on the last decade or so. My research question is, how has PCUN as an organization revolutionized after the defeat of Measure 88? Just for some context, it was a ballot measure that was defeated, and PCUN lost one of the legislative policies that they had passed through the legislature, but it was sent to the ballot for as a referendum. But my methods of conducting this research were through oral histories. I conducted oral interviews with PCUN staff elders and coalition members around the state to kind of learn firsthand their experiences with recent policies that affect the farm worker community. And I also analyzed online records of state legislative concepts and watched the Oregon State Legislature Committee and floor sessions to further just expand on the history of legislative policies that have gone through or that have been introduced and haven't gone through or have gone through. And I've also read various secondary sources that underscore other farm worker movements around the country to kind of compare and contrast what PCUN has in similarity with other organizations and the differences that make PCUN stand out. So again, after researching and listening to the oral histories, I came to the conclusion that actually after the defeat of Measure 88, it was uncharted territory for the organization. It was a ballot measure initiative, and in the organizing world, like there's various methods of organizing, but also just like there's kind of a timeline of what like regular like good old organizing is, and then a ballot measure, or like organizing for a ballot measure versus organizing for a campaign or for a candidate is like very different. And ballot measure organizing was something that was totally undone before by PCUN coalition staff and volunteers. And so the wealth of knowledge that was gained by the loss of the ballot measure helped leaders like Reina Lopez, who are part of this like newer generation, lead the organization to many, many victories that I highlight in my research. So just to highlight just very, very briefly, PCUN was able to pass tuition equity. They were able to pass heat and smoke protection rules for farm workers. They were able to come together with various philanthropic groups, along with other coalitions around the state, other community-based organizations, to come up with the Oregon Farm Worker Relief Fund that really comes in to support and provide resources for farm workers that are left out and excluded from government resources, or just like unable to have access to those. And more recently, PCUN also led the fight for Oregon farm worker overtime. Farm workers have been excluded from getting paid overtime for a very, very long time, since the new Labor Standards Act. And so it's a phase-in law, but it has been signed. And so in the next 5 years, growers are going to be phasing in paying farm workers overtime. And so, again, just to conclude, again, because of time, this is a very, very brief overview. This defeat really allowed farm workers and organizers at PCUN and around the organization and sister organizations to kind of revision and also just like amplify the amount of capacity that it takes to run a campaign. And so they have been able to engage Latinx and farm worker families through getting things like getting out the vote. They have expanded just like political education and civic education on issues that affect them. And so it has been monumental, and it has great to see them grow. And I also wanted to dedicate this research to honor the lives of the farm workers who work to put food on our tables and can afford to take time off and continue to show up despite the conditions. I also wanted to give a shout out to the undergraduate research opportunities program and the Latinx experiential fellowship program, and PCUN for funding this research. Thank you.
Off of and where you're going with your research.